Good afternoon, everybody. How are you doing? This is Katie M. Reed from katiemreed.com, and I'm showing you just a little sneak peek here of most of my manuscript. Hey, Larissa. Hey, hubby. Hey, hubby. I got dressed today, and I put on makeup. I have been sick. I still am, kind of, but I'm getting a little better, well enough to periscope and let you see my face. So I would love to hear, what writing projects are you guys working on? Absolutely it is. Yes, I even made lunch, hubby, for the kids. They were happy. I'm gonna flip around here. Hey, maybe you can hear some screaming from downstairs. Anyway, yeah, I know, right? I think I'm back. I'm getting there. So, oh, thank you. You know, Larissa, we were talking about the color palettes. Oh, hubby. The real me, sickness and health, right, babe? No, hubby sent me the nicest text yesterday, and I said, that means so much, especially because I haven't showered, I have no makeup on, and I have toilet paper stuck up my nose so it wouldn't keep running. But anyway, Larissa, what is your color palette? Do you know what it is? I think I'm maybe a winter, I don't know, those bright colors. Pastels are really bad. But anyway, I would love to hear on this edition of #WeWrite. Oh yeah, very fun. What are you working on? What writing projects are you working on? I am trying to get my memoir done. I have today and tomorrow to finish it, and then I'm sending it off to a small group of people. 6 women are going to read it, and I told hubby doesn't love reading. He does do it, and I told him, well, you do know that I want you to read this whole thing. I said, it's 50,000 words. And he just kind of looked at me. Ooh, yay, journaling and blogging. Adam is working on his Valentine's Day sermons and a rite of passage thing for young men. Awesome. Hearts. I'm giving you guys hearts. Except I think maybe I need to. Anyway, so exciting. Glad you guys are working on stuff. But yes, I have 2 days. And then time out, sorry. So I told hubby that he needs to read the book. I said, because I've read him chapters as we've gone along. But I said, you need to make sure what I say is okay. You know, you might not know. I might have something tucked in there. So anyway, I'm nice. I'm pretty nice in it. So I have this small group of women that are going to read it. Some of them are writers, some of them are avid readers, and some of them are just super smart. They're all smart, but anyway. And so they're going to critique it for about 3 weeks. Hopefully they can get through it, and then we're going to, hopefully, when your tax return back, we're hiring an editor. And yes, love super smart friends, me too. And hopefully we're hiring an editor, and then we'll see what happens. But what I want to talk to you today a little bit about is writing etiquette. Now, I am no expert, and I haven't gone out and researched a bunch of things, but so this is my opinion. So take it for what it's worth, and I would love to hear what your opinion is on some of this stuff. But, work smarter, not harder is a good mantra. Well, when I was writing this book, there was a couple, I didn't want to just take all my old blog posts and put them in the book, because if people have been reading my blog, I don't want them to be okay, I could have just read this for free on Katie's blog, which is katiemreed.com, by the way. Hey, see how I did that, hubby? See what I did there? Just a minute. Sorry. So, anyway, but there was a couple chapters. There's one about anger, and, thanks, Larissa. So there's one about anger, and I had written a post from my friend about it. Hey, Rachel, welcome. I was thinking about you today, Rachel. You have been on my mind as I'm reading the Choose Joy book, and it took me so long to get ready today, and I was just having empathy for you, my friend, and you're my hero, seriously. So I was laboring to get ready, and you were just on my heart. So hearts, hearts, hearts for Rachel. Anyway, I hope that didn't come across weird. I think you know what I mean. All the love, friend. So anyway, so there was this post that I wanted to include that I had written for somebody else about anger in my book. And I thought, I felt really good about it. My friend actually who hosted it helped me edit the post a lot. Probably why I like it, because she made it way better. But I think it's important, if you are going to republish something that you have written, if it has been first published on someone else's blog, you've written a guest post, I really think you need to go to that person and ask permission to reuse it, or just let them know. I mean, it's better to ask, I believe, but especially if you're putting it in a book, I think that, even though they are your words, you wrote that for that person's site. And so I think it's just a common courtesy and smart just to say, hey, I would love to use this post in my book. May I get your permission? Because when you go through a traditional publisher, you have to do that. My friend who I asked permission for was laughing because she said, I just had to do this for our book. Send out permissions, because you don't want to get in a sticky situation or a court type of situation if you don't follow the right channels. I had another post that I shared. I did the same thing with this gal. Hey, I think this fits well with my chapters. Are you okay with me using it in my book? And so now I have emails. I probably should have done like something handwritten too. But now I have emails that they have given their permission for me to put those in my book. Because you know what? We're going to hopefully make some money off this book. And I want to make sure that I've been granted permission to do that. It's probably also would be nice if I maybe send those two gals a free copy, of the book. Hang on one second. Lovely, huh? I'm doing so much better, though. You wouldn't even believe. You should have seen. Well, actually, hubby put a picture of how he and I looked on Twitter. There for the world to see. But anyway, so that's one common courtesy. I also think, too, when I went to the She Speaks conference, they talked about if you're going to guest post for someone, it's a common courtesy to do a teaser post on your own blog, usually that same day if possible. I had one friend that it didn't work for her to do it the same day, so she said, hey, could I share it the next day? I was totally fine with that. But when you do your teaser post, it's a good idea that it's not a copycat post of what you posted on your guest post. It can be a similar idea and lead into your guest post, but at least what they said at She Speaks is it can penalize you if you have the exact same title, the exact same words, the exact same pictures, that kind of thing. So you want to keep that in mind. Now, I have had, I don't know all the ins and outs of the technology. I just know what they said and I believe them. So when I guest post for someone, I try to tweak my title just a little bit. I might include a couple quotes from what I've written, but I just try to keep it kind of similar. Hey, Wendy, we were talking about you earlier, about getting permission to share things. So anyway, I think that's also a good thing is another writing etiquette is to not have it just be a cut and paste. Here, this is basically the same as my post, just read the rest of it over there. That's just, again, personal preference. The other thing is I've had a couple quotes that I put in my book from people like I've read their blog posts, and I always try to go to them. Haley, welcome. I always try to go to them and say, hey, like for instance, my friend Kim from God-Sized Dreams, years ago, she had this great quote about control, which is what my book is about. And I said, hey, Kim, I'm working on this project. Could I use your quote in my book? And she said, yes. And so, I probably just need to maybe remind her of that because that was a couple years ago. But I think it's just common courtesy. I read a book recently and there was something this author said in the book, and I'm pretty sure someone else said it. Do you know what I mean? I read it, I'm like, I'm not sure that quote is original with them, but they were saying it as if it was theirs. Now listen, as writers, we read so many things, it's really hard to remember if it was our original thought or somebody else's. I have been there. I do that when I write songs sometimes. I'm like, is this tune already on the radio? Sometimes you do that. And sometimes it's not. It's just that we've sang it so much around our house. It feels that way. It is tricky, Lee, isn't it? And sometimes you have no idea where you heard it. And so maybe you should just say something like, someone once said, or something like that. But I was debating when I read this quote to say something, but I didn't want to hurt the person's feelings. But maybe I could go Google and see, what comes up. And sometimes I think different quotes can get or the same quote can get attributed to different people, and that gets tricky. Or maybe they were quoting someone when they said it. So it is really hard. Excuse me. Anyway, it is really hard to do that. But you want to be careful. I mean, I think I have too many citations in my book. I'm already up to 26 citations, and I have 4 more chapters left. So I might be going a bit overboard. But I sure know if I've said something and someone quotes it, I would love for them to give me credit for that, and vice versa. Do the best you can. And obviously, if someone comes to you and said, hey, oh, that's good, Wendy. If someone comes to you and say, hey, I really said that or whatever, just be gracious about it. Be apologetic. None of us are out there to steal each other's words. And the point is to make Jesus known, right? But just be mindful of that when you're writing. If you're not sure if it's original with you or original with someone else, just try your best with that. So let me just recap. So we talked about the first point is if you're including a guest post in your publication or elsewhere, you should, yes, absolutely, Lee. That it is so hard. I don't want anyone to get tripped up on it, but it's just good to be mindful of it for sure. And okay, so the first point, if you're using a guest post of your own that you guest posted for somebody else, check with them to get permission that they're okay with you putting it in their book. The second thing would be when you are guest posting for someone, if you do a teaser, which is really nice to do to send them over to that person's site, then you need to not make it exactly identical to the post over there to help both of you with SEO issues. And then the third thing would be try to be mindful when you quote things or say them as your own that they really are your own. And this is really tricky. I call myself a recovering perfectionist, but a lot of people do. You know what I mean? So we need to be gracious with each other. The other tip I wanted to say is sometimes this has happened to my friends. They have a hashtag, maybe someone else has, is really similar to theirs, or that kind of thing. And again, let's give each other the benefit of the doubt that we're not trying to steal each other's thunder, that we're on the same team, as my friend Cindy Baltima says. But let's just be mindful too to give people room to have their territory. You know what I'm saying? And so again, we're not going to think the worst, but I think sometimes just having a conversation with that person, if we feel really upset about it, might be a good idea. And again, these are not well-proven methods. This is just Katie's etiquette ideas. So anyway, and Lee, I was asking earlier, and Wendy, I was asking earlier, if you want to share what writing project you are working on right now. We're kind of updating each other. And Larissa said she's working on journaling and blogging. Hubby's working on a Valentine's Day sermon and kind of rite of passage thing for a young man in our life that's coming of age. And I am almost done with my memoir. Yay! So do you guys have any tips? I would love to hear just some basic etiquette tips in dealing with other people, why you are thinking about that. Yay! Lee's book. So exciting. I've been thinking about that, Lee. You need to Vox me so we can talk just a little bit. I know you're busy. But anyway, side note. So while you're thinking of some tips that you want to share with everybody, Cindy Baltima let me know something today that is making my day, okay? I am a huge Chick-fil-A fan for many reasons. I like how their food tastes, I love their customer service, and I love their values. And we're supposed to be getting one about an hour and a half, well, it's really more like 2 hours. I'm just going to say hour and a half, it sounds better, from our house. Now, when we lived down at a Bible camp, we only had to drive 45 minutes to Chick-fil-A. So my mom and I sometimes would just drive to Chick-fil-A. I know it sounds crazy, but I am just a huge fan, and we might be getting one. And so I am so, so happy. And it's probably good it's not in our town because I would probably get really large, larger if it was that close. Thank you so much. We are excited. Well, I'm going to give you about 30 more seconds to type in your tips if you have some etiquette tips. Yes, we are in Michigan. We are in the Mitten. with lots of snow, but the sunshine is out. And I think, hubby, I think that's helping me feel better. Seriously. I was getting ready and I was just letting the sun come. Yes, ask permission for sure. And I also think I had, Annie Downs gave me really good advice one time, and she just said, once your words are out there, you cannot take them back. And so we want to be honest with our words. I was kind of teasing hubby earlier about maybe I put some, less than complimentary things about him in there, but really I don't think I did. But you want to be careful. Yes, you want to be honest, but at what cost, And so there's some parts, I know Lee and I have talked about this, there's some parts of our story that we're not going to share, even though they could help people. You got to be discerning. Now there's other parts. There's one part on forgiveness that I am sharing. Hey, Pat, welcome. There's one part that I am sharing, but I'm not using names, and I'm kind of glazing over just a little bit to protect the innocent, right? So just be mindful. I know Cindy has a great scope about that with Laura Lee, about just telling your story and when to do that and how to be careful with that. And, again, it comes back to, we want to make Jesus known. And especially if we are not healed from a part of our story, I believe we probably shouldn't be telling that part. There's one time I was going to write an article that was disclosing something that I was still upset about, and I had to go back to I already had, they had sent me a contract. I hadn't signed it yet, but I was really convicted, and I just said, you know what? I need to retract this pitch for this article because it's not right. My motive in it was more to be revengeful than helpful. And, even if I was going to write it anonymously, but even if I write this anonymously, this could really do some damage, and it wasn't worth the cost. So be careful with what you're sharing. Be honest, but think about how another person would feel, reading that. And another author gave me a great advice. She said, tell your part of the story, not someone else's part. And so I've tried to do that, from your perspective, and there's some great stories. Some of my friends have crazy lives, okay? Like movie lives. But that's not my story to tell unless they ask me to do that someday. And so be careful that you are telling your own story. And if you want to include, that doesn't mean you can't include other people in that, but is it from your perspective, or are you disclosing something maybe they don't want to be shared? So that is the last tip for you. So quick recap. Ask permission to use guest posts or to use stories. Get that permission in writing, whether that's email or on paper. The next part would be when you do a teaser for a guest post, make sure it's not identical to your guest post. Change it up a little bit to help both of you with search engine optimization. Number 3, try to quote people when you know it's not yours, or if it's not yours, just admit that it's not yours. I know sometimes when pastors will say things, I'm like, man, that was just such a revelation. And then you're like, but did they just read that in a book or find that online? Try to give credit where credit is due as much as you can. And then the 4th one is, when you tell your story, be honest, but don't, do it for the shock value. You know what I'm saying? Be wise and know that once it's out there, it's out there. Count the cost. Get some wise counsel if there's a story that, you need to make sure. And then that goes along with getting permission too from the different people. But I know there's very creative ways that you can include things that aren't going to, what's the word? Libel, that kind of stuff with other people. So I hope these tips were helpful for you as you work on your writing projects today. Thanks for joining me and bearing with man voice here. But I will be back at 1:30 on Monday for the Monday message. And hubby and I missed you so for Stop Hammock Time, but we should be back on Wednesday at 9 p.m. Hey, Kelly, welcome. Just wrapping things up, but you can catch the replay if you want to, friend. But so thankful for each of you, and keep on writing. Don't be fearful with these tips, but just be mindful as you go forward, and let's keep writing to the best of our ability that He's given us. Take care.